Believe it or not, the PlayStation's very first 2D fighting game in North America was, this. This is PlayStation, Year 1. For those of you who either don't remember or have blocked it from your memory, there was actually a live-action movie based on Capcom's landmark arcade fighting game, Street Fighter II. Titled Street Fighter, and released in 1994, it starred Belgian martial arts superstar Jean-Claude Van Damme as Colonel William Guile, and classically trained actor Raoul Julia as the evil dictator M. Bison. Needless to say, the film took several liberties with its source material, and while the end result has its moments, it's not very well regarded. It's a minor miracle that it shaped up as well as it did. I recommend reading the Polygon feature Street Fighter the Movie, What Went Wrong, which goes into detail about the many problems first-time director Steven D'Souza faced during production. In short, the movie had an unmissable release date, Capcom made a series of ridiculous demands during filming that resulted in major last-minute changes, and a large chunk of its budget was spent hiring its two principal actors. The game adaptation of Street Fighter the Movie, that would make it Street Fighter the Movie the Game, I suppose, also has a troubled history. During the movie's production, Capcom hired on Chicago-based arcade developer Incredible Technologies to capture digitized footage of its actors for use in two different fighting games. Grabbing this footage was a chore for pretty much everyone. Actors had to coat themselves in a thick layer of baby oil and stand under the boiling heat of a massive lighting setup, performing martial arts moves that they were often not trained to perform while standing on top of a rotating platform. The arcade version of Street Fighter the Movie was developed by Incredible Technologies themselves. I won't go into it too much because the footage you see of it here really speaks for itself. Incredible Technologies had previously developed Time Killers and Bloodstorm, a pair of absolutely terrible arcade fighting games that attempted to capture a share of Mortal Kombat's market with ridiculous levels of graphic violence and bloodshed. To an extent, Street Fighter the Movie is also an attempt to siphon Mortal Kombat's market share with its use of digitized actors, but the PlayStation and Sega Saturn versions feature gameplay much more similar to Street Fighter than Mortal Kombat. While the arcade and console versions of Street Fighter the Movie were built using the same digitized footage, they are completely different games, with distinct engines and gameplay. The PlayStation and Saturn versions of Street Fighter the Movie were developed by an internal Capcom studio, and as a result, they play like a modified version of Super Street Fighter II Turbo. The gameplay is very similar, the timing and pacing are on point, and every character even has a super move, which was, at the time, a very recent addition for the series. While the arcade version developed by Incredible Technologies uses a lot more digitized footage for its own interpretation of the Street Fighter formula, Capcom smartly decided to pick and choose individual frames of the digitized actors to recreate character sprites from Super Street Fighter II Turbo. The result looks kinda goofy at times, but Capcom's approach was definitely the right one, and if you can look past the game's unusual presentation, it's a very solid fighter. In addition to traditional tournament and versus modes, the PlayStation and Saturn versions of Street Fighter the Movie also feature a movie battle mode, which blends Street Fighter's gameplay with a visual novel in an attempt to recreate the movie's story. Players can make decisions at several branching paths, affecting which fighters they encounter during the story, though the ending is always the same. Movie Battle Mode is unusual for several reasons. It starts with an unwinnable battle against Bison, which is the sort of thing that makes sense in an RPG where you can level up your characters and eventually become stronger than your enemies, but it makes no sense in a fighting game where you have the exact same abilities at the end of the game as you did at the beginning. Also, you can only play as Guile, which takes some adjustment if you're not used to playing as charge-based characters. I swear it cheats, too. Guile deals very little damage compared to his opponents, and I've seen the AI pull off instant charge moves and other attacks that would be impossible for a human player to do. By the time you get to Sagat, the game's difficulty kicks into overdrive, and the only consistent way I've been able to win the final fight against Bison is to retreat into a corner and jump kick over and over. That, by the way, was the exact same strategy I used as a teenager to beat the Super NES ports of Street Fighter II and Street Fighter II Turbo. Glad to see some things don't change. Despite the punishing movie battle mode, Street Fighter the Movie was the best fighter available for the PlayStation at launch. It looks ridiculous, but it plays pretty much exactly like Super Street Fighter II Turbo otherwise, putting it a step ahead of the simplistic Battle Arena Toshinden. Capcom apparently didn't have much faith in the game, handing it off to Acclaim for publishing outside of Japan, but it isn't bad at all, and you can certainly do far worse in terms of 2D fighters on PlayStation. These days though, if digitized graphics don't do anything for you, you should probably just play one of the Street Fighter Alpha games instead. Oh, and one last thing. Street Fighter the movie introduces an original character named Captain Sawada. This is his super move. God, that's so good.
Sawada, win!
Thanks for watching. Next up is the PlayStation debut of another popular series that originated in arcades, Seibu Kahatsu's The Raiden Project. I upload new episodes of PlayStation Year One every week, and you can subscribe if you want to keep up with the series. See you next time.